In the heart of the world's largest country, behind the fortified walls of the Kremlin, lies a tale shrouded in mystery and power. This is the story of a man who has shaped modern Russia like no other. Born in the post-war ruins of Leningrad, Vladimir Putin's journey from an unassuming childhood to the apex of Russian power is a saga of ambition, intelligence, and resilience. From the war-torn streets of Leningrad, a young Putin learned the harsh lessons of survival and perseverance. These early years laid the foundation for his rise through the ranks of the formidable KGB. As a KGB officer, he honed his skills in espionage and strategy, preparing for a future few could foresee. A future where he would navigate the turbulent waters of Russian politics and ascend to its highest office. With the fall of the Soviet Union, a new era began. Vladimir Putin emerged from the shadows, appointed as Prime Minister by Boris Yeltsin, and soon after, President. His rise was nothing short of meteoric, marked by a blend of charisma, cunning, and sheer determination. Under his leadership, Russia saw a resurgence on the world stage, with bold economic reforms, military might, and strategic alliances. Yet, his tenure has not been without controversy. Who is Vladimir Putin beyond the political facade? A judoka, a lover of the outdoors, a man of many layers. His public persona is as complex as the nation he leads. Join us as we delve into the life of Vladimir Putin, a journey through history, power, and the enigmatic character that has defined modern Russia. This is his story. Unforgiving streets of post-war Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg. Petersburg, that a boy named Vladimir Putin took his first steps into a world ravaged by conflict, yet filled with endless possibilities. Born on October 7, 1952, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin entered a city still scarred by the brutal siege of Leningrad, where survival was a daily battle. The city bore the weight of its history, and so too would the young Putin. The Putin family lived in a communal apartment, a stark reality for many Soviet citizens. His father, Vladimir Spiridonovich, was a factory foreman and a decorated war veteran who had fought bravely in the Soviet Navy during World War II. His mother, Maria Ivanovna, was a devout and resilient woman who had barely survived the harrowing siege that claimed the lives of over 1 million. In this environment, young Vladimir was shaped by the harsh realities of Soviet life. Discipline, loyalty, and a fierce sense of patriotism were instilled in him from an early age. He was a quiet, serious boy, with an intensity that set him apart from his peers. It was in the sport of judo that Putin first found an outlet for his energy and discipline. The rigorous training and mental focus required would become central to his character, teaching him the importance of strategy, strength, and control. This was more than just a sport to him. It was a way to forge his identity. At school, Putin was not the top student, but he was fiercely determined. He understood the value of knowledge, especially in a world where information was power. It was here that he first expressed his ambition to serve the state, inspired by Soviet heroes and the tales of patriotism that surrounded him. Even as a child, Vladimir Putin was a strategist in the making, always observing, always planning his next move. He was fascinated by the stories of Soviet intelligence officers, and it wasn't long before he set his sights on a career in the KGB. Little did anyone know, this boy from Leningrad would grow up to become one of the most powerful and enigmatic leaders of the 21st century. But, in these early years, the foundation was being laid. a foundation built on discipline, loyalty, and an unshakable belief in his destiny. As the Soviet Union stood on the front lines of the Cold War, a young Vladimir Putin was ready to make his mark, not through politics, but through shadows. His entry into the mysterious world of the KGB would mark the beginning of a career shaped by secrecy, strategy, and raw ambition. In 1975, at the age of 23, Putin joined the Soviet Union's most feared institution, the Komitet Gosudarstvennoy Bezopasnosti, or simply the KGB. His work as an intelligence officer was rooted in discipline and control, skills he had honed since childhood. For years, his life was hidden behind a cloak of secrecy, but Putin's focus was clear: to serve the Soviet state. Stationed in Dresden, East Germany, Putin operated in a world of espionage, gathering intelligence and recruiting informants. The quiet streets of Dresden may have seemed far removed from Moscow, but this city was a critical hub for Cold War operations. Here, he navigated the murky waters of the intelligence world, all while honing the skills that would one day shape his political destiny. But as the Iron Curtain began to crumble in the late 1980s, Putin found himself in the heart of a collapsing empire. The Berlin Wall came down, and with it, the world Putin had known for years. In Dresden, surrounded by chaos, Putin made a fateful call to Moscow, only to be met with silence. The Soviet Union was no longer the omnipotent power it once was. These moments would leave a lasting impact on Putin, a lesson in the fragility of power and the importance of control. When he returned to Russia in 1990, the Soviet Union was in its final days. The empire had fallen, and in the ruins of its collapse, Putin saw opportunity. Back in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Putin transitioned from the world of covert operations to the public arena of politics. He quickly found himself in the orbit of Anatoly Sobchak, the city's progressive mayor, a man who recognized Putin's sharp intellect and strategic mind. Sobchak appointed him as an advisor, marking Putin's first step into the volatile world of Russian politics. As the Soviet Union dissolved, Putin's rise through the political ranks was swift and calculated. His time in the KGB had taught him to navigate a world of shifting alliances and uncertainties, and he applied these lessons to the cutthroat political landscape of post-Soviet Russia. Little did the world know, but the man who had spent years operating in the shadows of Soviet power was about to emerge as a key figure in Russia's political future, a future that would forever change the course of global history.
In the chaos of the post-Soviet era, a relatively unknown figure was quietly making his ascent. His name? Vladimir Putin. As Russia struggled to find its identity, Putin was already weaving a path through the shadows, poised to seize control. It was in St. Petersburg, under the mentorship of Mayor Anatoly Sobchak, that Putin made his first leap into politics. He began as an advisor, then deputy mayor. Sobchak saw a sharp mind and a loyal operator, qualities that would serve Putin well as he maneuvered through the city's post-Soviet transition. But St. Petersburg was just the beginning. Putin, the former KGB agent, was preparing for something far greater. The political turbulence of the 1990s opened a door to Moscow, and with the fall of Russia's first post-Soviet president, Boris Yeltsin, that door swung wide open. In 1996, Putin's talents caught the eye of the Kremlin. First, a position in the Presidential Property Department, then a swift rise through the ranks to head the Federal Security Service, FSB, the modern successor to the KGB. His quiet yet calculated ascent was both invisible and unstoppable. By 1999, Yeltsin's trust in this loyal, efficient man was absolute. Yeltsin, weakened by illness and scandal, needed a successor, someone who could stabilize the chaos. On New Year's Eve, 1999, Yeltsin resigned. Putin was catapulted from obscurity to acting president of Russia, inheriting a fractured nation. In the coming months, Putin would prove to be ruthless in his ambitions. He swiftly consolidated power, launched brutal campaigns in Chechnya, and projected himself as the strongman Russia craved. He wasn't just a leader, he was a symbol of Russian resurgence. In March 2000, Putin won the presidential election with overwhelming support. His rise had been meteoric, from a political aide in St. Petersburg to the most powerful man in Russia in under a decade. Vladimir Putin's journey had just begun. His ambitions stretched far beyond the Kremlin, and soon the world would come to know the full extent